Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. Continuing what we've been working on, I need to stock up my freezer a little bit more with some bacon this time, and I'm gonna go ahead and dice up some ham, and all that I usually use for breakfast tacos or a egg scramble, things of that nature. Recently, I upgraded to a new roasting oven from the one that I used before. I've had it for many years and it is actually a little bit smaller. I upgraded to this Hey Nemo, which is a 22 quart size. This is the vessel. This is my old one. Let me pull it over here. So you can see the size difference. It's quite a bit taller. It'll be great for bigger turkey if you use it for that. I like to use this not for just for making bacon, for doing beans, pre-cooking. You also can do salsa when you're doing gardening, a big batch of salsa, cook it in there to can up. Last time I made salsa, I'm not even kidding, it was lapping at the lip here. It barely fit in, but it was so delicious. So it was time to upgrade for our family. And I'm very excited to try this for the first time. Let me put this in. I like this one, the Hey Nemo brand. It has an off setting that my old one did not have. And then you go up to keep warm, 150 degrees, all the way up to 450 degrees. And it even has a place here about 255 that is defrost. So that's kind of interesting. I'll have to check into that and see how I like that. For our bacon, I've got several packages from Sam's Club of the Applewood smoked bacon. It's so delicious. We've got all of our bacon that we're gonna cook today loaded into our roasting oven, and I've got it warming up to 350 degrees. So now we're going to add our lid on. And another reason I picked this particular unit is it also has a glass display so that you can peek in on your product, see if it's browning, see how well it's doing without having to remove the lid and let a heat escape just because you wanna check on your product that you're making. So I really like that aspect. I look forward to having that functionality on this. Here goes our lid, and we're going to let it just keep cooking. It'll take several hours to do this amount of bacon, but look forward to getting it done. When this is done, I'm going to be chopping it up into a dice and putting it onto cookie sheets, like I've done with onions and things of that nature, freezing it a little bit and then putting it into Ziploc bags so that I can put it into my freezer and use it in the future for all those yummy recipes that you want bacon for. By freezing it on the trays before I put it in the Ziploc bag, I have greater control over portion sizes in the future. No matter what size of dish I'm making, I get to control how much bacon I put into it. While the bacon is cooking, I'm going to dice up some ham, put it on a cookie sheet to flash freeze, and put it in my freezer as well. I have these little non-slip squares that I found on Amazon. Not affiliated on any of these products. They're just things I've bought to make my life more simple. Whenever I'm using these cutting boards, they tend to wander on me and I don't like that. So I take 4 of these, set them down, and put it on here, and then it doesn't move at all. It's been great. I highly recommend using those as opposed to adhering them. It makes it easier to wash these, and then you can also reuse them for any other cutting boards that you have, which I really liked that functionality as well. This ham I found at Sam's Club, and it's already pre-sliced. It has no bone in it, so all I'm gonna be doing is simply dicing it into smaller pieces to make it easier to add to breakfast tacos and whatnot. If there's any heavy layers of fat that you don't want, you can trim those off. I usually kind of saute these, stir fry them if you will, while I'm cooking any potatoes or peppers that I add to my breakfast tacos, and that usually will kind of melt off, so I'm not worried about it. You can do these in as big of chunks or small of chunks as you want. The slices themselves are kind of thick, but not for cubes. I'm using my food scraper again to get it off the cutting board, and then just sort of separating it with my fingers so they freeze in more individual pieces. That makes it easier for those portion sizes again. Now, some people might be asking, why don't I just do this on the fly as I need it? And I do. But sometimes when you're not feeling well or life is just really busy, it is really, really nice to treat yourself, your future you, as Becky from Acre Homestead calls it, to having some of this prep work done. You're only dirtying the dishes once, and all you have to do is pull it out of the freezer, use what you need, make a quick meal, and not have to stress yourself out, take extra time to do all those extra dishes at that time, to do all that extra chopping at that time. If you have somebody who has a family emergency or a church member who has a need and you need to make a meal real quick, but life is crazy, you can do it and bless other people and not have to be overexerting yourself in a busy stage of life. So there's all kinds of reasons to treat yourself to doing this extra work and still sometimes doing it on the fly. Got most of this broken up nicely. I'm just gonna spread it out pretty evenly on the pan so that it's not too mounded up. Break up any outlier pieces. I'm gonna go stick it in the freezer and let it sit for about an hour and a half to 2 hours for this amount of meat. And then I'm gonna start bagging it up. Check out our bacon here. It's cooking down nicely. We've got a lot of grease that has come off of it, and that's going to keep it kind of soft, which is okay depending on what you're using it for. I want it to crisp up a little bit more for my purposes, so I'm going to drain off some of this grease just using a spoon and put it into a jar to use later. I use this to grease my pan whenever I'm gonna make those breakfast tacos with bacon in it. You can do a grilled cheese in the bacon grease, all kinds of possibilities. If you wanna mix up homemade biscuits, instead of using lard or butter, you could use some bacon grease for your fat, and that changes the flavor of it, makes it taste delicious. I don't do that all the time, but sometimes it just sounds tasty. As you can see, as it's cooking, it's breaking apart into smaller pieces, and that's why I don't leave whole pieces of fried bacon. If I'm gonna do that, I'll bake it in the oven and cook it that way. I've got a different sheet I use for that, but this is great for the crumbled bacon where you just want smaller pieces in a omelet or breakfast taco mix, those kind of things. You could even use it and crumble it up for, crisp it up more so for bacon on your salad, those kind of things. So it has all kinds of uses. However you would use small pieces of bacon, sky's the limit there. Our ham is done freezing. As you can see, it's kind of sticking together. I'm going to use my Ziploc bag holders so that I can fill them up easier. I don't make a lot of pasta salads, but I'm sure there's some out there that use ham. This would be a good use for that. Since it's already pre-cooked, you could have it diced and in your freezer ready to go and make a summer salad if you wanted to. In that case, you'd probably want to go ahead and trim off the fat more so than I did, since I'm going to be cooking it, but you might not for a summer salad, but that would work very nicely. Now these Ziploc bags that I used, I went ahead and labeled them. I recycled these from something else. I've labeled them with what is in the bag and then the month and the year so that I know what's in them in the freezer. Other people will know what's in them and they can use them. You can see how they're staying separated and not clumping together from the moisture of the ham. It's perfect. All right, I'm gonna stick these in the freezer. We're gonna go ahead and call it good on the bacon. I think it's cooked well enough for our purposes. I'm going to go ahead and strain out some of the grease so that I can collect as much of it as possible and let it cool down. And then I'm going to put it on the cookie sheets and put it in the freezer so that I can bag it up later. Most of this is broken down fairly small, but there's still some bigger chunks that I have here and some stringy pieces of the fattier parts that I'm going to just kind of rough chop through with my knife once it cools down and strains out some more of the grease. That'll make it much easier for me to deal with later on. It'll be more even on the pieces and will go into my dishes much easier. And I'm straining it into a bowl so that I can take this grease and put it into a jar after it drains out as well, as opposed to just going straight into paper towels. I'm tilting the insert so that all the grease goes to one end. It'll make it a lot easier and more efficient for me to scoop it out and put it into a jar. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this through the funnel to make this go a little bit faster. The rest of this is a bunch of crumbles with a little bit of grease, so I'm going to put it in with the rest of the meat. All right, we're going to let this strain for about 15 or so minutes to get most of the grease out, and then we'll be back to put it on the trays. We're back after the 10-minute wait, so we're going to spread it out on these trays and then pop it in the freezer. I'm gonna wait to chop it up until after it's frozen some. I think it'll be easier to do a rough chop through. All right, into the freezer they go. It's a new day. We decided to wrap up that part of the video because it was getting kind of late, and now we're back to finish with the bacon. We're gonna cut up any parts that need to be and then get it bagged and back in the freezer. We're all bagged up after chopping it. We've got 6 quart-sized bags filled and marked as best I could. I do recommend when you're dealing with frozen things or cold things, mark the bag beforehand because it doesn't like to mark afterwards, but I know what's in these. I'll use up the unmarked ones first. And I got all my recycled bags used up, so we're good to go. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen again as I work to fill my freezer with foods that are ready to go and make my life easier as I'm cooking for my family. Hope you enjoyed it and got something from it. Have a blessed day.